Good afternoon to all of you and a very warm welcome to Vidya family and the guests who have joined us today. This is the third webinar in our Self-Love and Care Workshop series. Thank you so much for your participation. We have got tremendous responses for the last two sessions and how it is comforting and bringing healing during these tough times. There is a quote by Louise Linhay which says, "You have been criticizing yourself for years and it hasn't worked. Try approving of yourself and see what happens." Yes, many of us have to still develop the quality of self-love. People who love themselves are less likely to suffer from anxiety and depression. Self-love also paves the way to a positive mindset, which is an essential in for success in life and for mental well-being, especially in a situation like this. Learning to love yourself also reduces stress and makes you more focused at work. Remember that Vidya family is always with you during these tough times. Please reach out to us for any support that you may require. Today, we are going to have yet another interesting session on the topic, increasing emotional awareness. This session is going to help us to understand the causes of different emotions that we all go through, its impact in our body, and tips on how to manage these emotions. We are very happy to have with us today Aditya Kuchibotlia, a life coach, to deliver this session. Thank you so much, Aditya, for joining with us today for this session. Few words about Aditya Kuchibotla. He is a coach working with individuals and businesses. He specializes in emotional intelligence, core values, and mindfulness. In addition, he loves to write. Many organizations also invite him to speak to their employees and members. He is a chartered accountant by education and has over 19 years of experience in large companies. We are very fortunate to have you with us today, Mr. Aditya, and to deliver this session for us to the entire Vidya family and motivate us today. We also have Snehalata Ramachandran with us, who would be doing the closing remarks. She is a project head training events in Vidya Learning Center, Bengaluru. Over to you, Aditya, to deliver the session for today.
Thank you, Rekha. And I would first like to thank Rashmi ma'am. I can just see her on the screen. So thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm really honored to be there in front of you all. So the way we will keep this is, while there is sufficient time that you would have towards the end of the session for asking questions, if during the session, if you feel you have some question and you want to ask, feel free to ask. Don't hesitate. I would love sessions that are interactive as opposed to me just talking. I'm not very good at talking, by the way. So I like those pauses that I get from you all. And the fact that you're asking me questions reassures me that you're listening to me and whatever I'm saying is of some interest to you all. Okay. All right. So I will share a few slides that I have made for this one, and then we will talk about it. So what I remember whenever I come across anything relating to emotions is, when I was a child, a lot of the elders used to tell me that never ever take any decision when you are in a severe negative emotion. Okay. Which is like extreme anger or extreme sadness. And their logic at that point in time was that decisions taken at that point in time usually tend to backfire. How many of you have heard it, and how many of you kind of believe that? Put in chat box saying me or I heard or something like that. So I know there are people who have heard it just as me. Yeah, I can see quite a few yes coming through. True. So if you look at this, okay, 1 second. Yeah, if you look at this thing, let's imagine for a moment that this is you. Okay, you are engulfed with a challenge which involves a lot of emotions. Okay. Now, while you are looking at it, this example is a physical example. I also want you to look at these examples without any physical aspects involved around it. when you're in the midst of a challenge, which has serious emotions that are involved in this, the ability for you to look at that particular incident is not holistic, but is restricted to a certain area only. If you see this green area that is kind of colored, this is the amount of visibility that you would have towards that incident. Now, what you cannot see is this large spectrum of things that are there involved. And this is what our elders used to say, though they did not have all that science and the technology to be able to explain it in detail to us. But practically speaking, this was the biggest challenge, because blindsided by a whole host of things which are facts or emotions or people that are involved in a particular incident. Now imagine there is a magic wand which can take you out of that and place you elsewhere. Now, if you see, the way you would be able to look at this is a complete picture. You would get a complete picture of the situation. This ability to take yourself out of an incident which involves emotions, which involves you also, and you becoming a witness, a third party kind of a person towards that, is nothing but emotional awareness. It's your awareness of people seeing the things in a very objective way, in a very neutral way. That's what emotional awareness is all about. So when we talk about emotional awareness, there are two aspects to it. Okay, these two aspects they aid significantly in you being able to detach yourself from these situations and behave in a very objective way, basically. Otherwise, we tend to get carried away by emotions. And there is nothing wrong in that, because we're all humans. And that's the biggest differentiator that many of the other animals and we have, which is our ability to perceive emotions and use those emotions. Now, if we look at this emotional awareness per se, there are two aspects to it. One is the knowledge of the emotions. When I say knowledge, it's not just saying that I'm angry or I'm sad or I'm happy. It is you knowing where that particular emotion is coming from, what is the root cause of that emotion, okay, and which aspect of your physicality is getting impacted by that emotion. We will get into details as to how we are going about that. The other aspect that involves emotional awareness and that helps emotional awareness is your ability to manage that. So once you know where that emotion is coming in from, what it is doing, your ability to manage the situation makes you more objective and enhances your ability to take decisions, basically. So probably we have seen a whole lot of one of the greatest examples that many people give when it comes to emotional awareness and ability to manage emotions well is our ex-cricket captain Mahendra Singh Dhoni. So he's called Captain Cool for a reason, because he is able to think through clearly in stressful situations. Imagine a billion people are watching the team. They want the team to win. There are over hundreds, tens of thousands of people in the stadium who are cheering for the team. And emotional, very, very tight situation, very difficult situation. Taking a call on deciding whom to bowl, whom to send into bat, and all those things, it's not easy. So his ability to carry those emotions have earned that particular tag to him. At the same time, we also see a bunch of leaders who cannot control their emotions. There was this one ex-leader of a very large country. Sorry,
Elena, can you mute somebody who's talking? Can I request everybody to mute, please?
Poonam needs to mute.
Okay. So we also have ample examples of world leaders who are very bad at managing their. Now, what I want you to tell me, I mean, if anybody wants to unmute and say, or type it in chat box, they can do it. I want you to tell me what emotional intelligence, according to you, is.
Emotional intelligence is knowing about, having awareness about the emotions, about the thoughts, and how to go about it and how to manage it is what I feel actually.
That's a good thought. That's a good definition. Anybody else wants to take a shot at it?
So basically, emotional intelligence is when you are aware of your emotions, you can manage them according to the situation and not get overwhelmed by them.
Yeah, when you're aware of those emotions, your ability to manage them without getting overwhelmed by this. Yeah. Anybody else?
Yeah, this is Janani here.
Yes, Janani.
Yeah. Emotional awareness is when you know what triggered that emotion. Why was it triggered? And why did you react to it? What are the, sometimes when I get very annoyed, I want to say something, or something somebody says has affected me. I think about what was it that affected, what part of my mind or my brain was affected, what triggered it. That is, I think, being more aware of your emotions.
Yeah.
Knowing what triggered it, what was that, that point of trigger.
Yeah.
That's
so you're talking more about the root cause of that emotion and its impact in your body and in your mind. Yeah, that's a good one. Anybody else would like to take? We'll just take one more response and then I will go on.
There are some responses in the chat box.
Okay, can you please read them? I'm unable to read them.
Just a second, I'll read it. Okay, somebody says that what to be done. 1 second, just scrolling it. To understand the feelings and thoughts, what is going on and what to be done simultaneously. That is emotional intelligence by Rohit Kumar. And Pratima Goel says managing your emotions well and adjusting to situation. And we have,
Okay.
That's it. That's it. Yeah.
I think a part of it is also being able to perceive the emotions of others.
That's a very interesting point that you brought in. That's a very interesting aspect that you're quoting. It also involves the understanding the emotions of others. So in a nutshell, what you all have said is correct. Okay. So one of the biggest challenges that I used to have when I was learning this aspect a few years back, and I was learning my ropes around, was that the definitions that were there were quite complex. So I have coined a definition of my own, which is to simplify this entire concept of emotional intelligence, which is, are you able to see anything moving on my screen or? Yeah. So emotional intelligence is your ability. Okay. So unlike certain other aspects like IQ, emotional intelligence is a skill. What I mean by it is a skill is this is something that you can learn, this is something that you can practice, and this is something that you can improve. It's not something that you are born with and you cannot do anything about, basically, right? So this is a skill. It's your ability to I don't know what's happening with my screen. Sorry for this. Yeah, it's your ability to channelize. Okay, so it's not just understanding the emotions, it's also your ability to channelize them, give them. What you mean by channelize is when we are involved in a very precarious situation, or situation that has high emotions involved, the emotions are flying all around the place. So it's your ability to bring them together and give them an appropriate direction. So that's what channelizing means. And channelizing the emotions, when I say emotions, it's not just my own emotions, it's the emotions of those around me also. So that is what is an important aspect of emotional intelligence. And you're channelizing them in a very prudent way, in a way which is not manipulative, but in a way which is wise and which is beneficial for everybody who's involved. So it's ethically, morally, legally, it's an appropriate way. It's not manipulating somebody. Okay, so this is in a nutshell, emotional intelligence is all about. Now, if you look at this, there are two things in this, two aspects involved in emotional intelligence. One is you yourself, your emotions, their reasons, and your ability to channelize those, and the emotions of everybody around you. Basically, it's not just your own emotions, but emotions of others around you as well. So, to somebody's point, when they were talking about emotions of other individuals as well. Now, before we start understanding the emotions of others, it becomes very, very important for us to understand our own emotions. Because if we cannot understand our own emotions, it practically is not possible for us to be able to understand the emotions of other individuals around us. That's where the awareness part of it comes into play. Today, in our conversation, we will focus more on understanding our own emotions, as opposed to focusing on the emotions of other people. Okay. So I'm going to focus a little bit on some of the basic emotions. I don't want to go into depth about a whole lot of other emotions. Now, if you see across, there are a lot of definitions for basic emotions, a lot of basic emotions that get thrown. Some people say there are 5 basic emotions, some 10, some 20, and so on and so forth. So I like to keep things simple, because what I have seen many people's definitions on basic emotions is these are, according to me, the 5 basic emotions that we have. Okay. And the rest that are there are more or less derivatives of these emotions. Sadness, anger, disgust, happiness, fear. So these are the basic emotions. Some people throw in surprise also in that. Now, if we look at surprise as an emotion, it stands as on its own just for a very brief period, and then it manifests into another emotion. Like, say, for example, if you have not seen a friend for a very long time, like for 10, 15 years, and you suddenly bump into that person out of blue, the first emotion that you undergo is surprise. But then that surprise barely lasts for half a second to 1 second. And then that translates into happiness. Okay. It can't stand on its own for a very long time. Whereas these emotions that are there, that I'm talking about, they can stand on their own for a relatively longer period of time. Happiness can stay for a little longer. Disgust can stay for longer. Sadness can stay for longer. Anger, for that matter of fact, tends to stay very long. Same is the case with sadness, basically. Okay, so that's where I want to focus on these 5 emotions. So what I want to talk about now is, a lot of us grow with the myth that happiness is the best emotion. Okay, and we all want to be happy. I'm sure none of us want to be sad. We all want to be happy. Okay, and once I was talking to a bunch of individuals, and I was telling them that while we all want to be happy, what we forget is the fact that happiness comes with a set of very serious disadvantages. Okay. I'm going to talk about a real life incident. This has happened more than 10 years back, and it still rings fresh in my mind. I just cannot take my thoughts out of it. I think around 11 or 12 years back, when I was working in an organization, I used to lead a very large team. And in that team, there were two guys who got married in the same month. Within a gap of about a week or 10 days, they both got married in their hometowns. So one guy got married to another girl in the same organization, and one guy got married to another girl who's from his hometown, basically. So after they got married, they came back, and their colleagues, they all wanted a party. So they took these guys out for a party. So this happened on a Saturday evening. And those days in Bangalore, all the pubs and bars used to shut down at 11 o'clock. Okay. So these guys had, I think, one drink too many. And around 11 o'clock, when it was getting shut, somebody got an idea that, see, we're all having such a great time, we should carry it on. And there is a cafe on Mysore Road, which stays open 24/7. It opens 20, it doesn't shut down. It is open 24 hours. Somebody said we should go there. So these guys took their vehicles and then it started off. Now what happened was the girl and the guy who got married and the other guy who got married, the three of them, they three were in a car. And then there are a bunch of other guys who took other cars and they all drove. I get a call around 2 o'clock in the night saying that there was an accident and there were a few deaths. Okay. These two guys, the guy who was driving and the guy who was sitting behind, the newly married guys, there was spot death. Their car met with an accident. They died on the spot. The girl who was sitting in the passenger seat, she was critically injured. It took almost 2.5, 3 months for her to become normal. Now, if we look at this whole thing, they were happy, they were having a gala time, and in the extreme happiness, they took a decision. And that decision proved to be good. So what typically happiness pushes us is it makes us complacent, it makes us careless, it makes us blindsided by a whole lot of facts. The same way, all the other emotions involved are like that. Now I want you to ask a question. I want to ask you a question, and I want you to write your responses in your books, the books and papers, the pens that you got. Use them to write this down. I want you to relook at yourself during these few minutes when I was narrating this incident, and write down what were the emotions that you went through. Whether it is single emotion or multiple emotions, write them down. Now that you've written it, think for a moment. I want you to write down the words that I have used or that have come into your mind that has caused these emotions. The specific words that caused those emotions, I want you to write them down. And if you have written that, the third question that I want you to answer is, when you were going through that emotion that you went through, which part of your body was getting
Can't hear.
Sorry?
Can't hear you.
Okay, I will repeat the question. So when you were, it was just with the last question, I guess, Mala, right?
Yes, yes.
So when you were going through that emotion that you went through, or the emotions, which part of the body was impacted by that? Where did you feel the impact of that emotion in your body?
Heart.
Sorry, any question?
I said on heart. It impacted on heart.
In heart, okay. So everybody would have different emotions and different impact. So please write it down. Okay. Now, what I want you to take away as a, I'm not a teacher, but I keep giving homeworks quite often. Is when you go back with this knowledge, take a piece of paper in that book, open a fresh page for each of these emotions, and answer these two questions. The question number one is, relook at any instance where you went through that particular emotion. Let's say, for example, you're talking about sadness. Okay. So the heading would be sadness, and you would say, what words cause sadness in you? What are the words, or what are the instances that cause sadness to you? So you would write that down. And the second question that you would write down is, where does that impact you? Where does sadness impact you? Does it impact in your heart? Some people, their nostrils get blocked when they are sad, and they're extremely sad. Okay. Some people's voice starts to choke. Okay. Some people's voice automatically goes low. So where is it impacting? The reason why this is a very, very important exercise is, by the time you write it down, the next time when you are going through that emotion, you would be able to easily spot that you're going through this emotion. The moment that awareness comes into your mind that, okay, I'm going through this emotion, trust me, the impact that that particular emotion has on you significantly reduces. And I'll show you how it reduces in the subsequent conversation that we're going to have. So did everybody got those questions, or do you want me to repeat them?
Can you repeat it, please?
Okay, I will repeat them once again. So you would take a piece of paper for each of these emotions, or two papers, however you want to do it. And you would write down the name of the emotion on that page and answer these two questions. Question number one is, what is the cause of that emotion? Is it a particular word that is cause? C-A-U-S-E. Okay. So what is the cause of that emotion? Is it a word that is causing that emotion? Is it a sentence? Is it a particular way you are treated that is causing that emotion? What is causing it? So that is the first question. The second question is, where in your body is that emotion impacting you? which part of the body? Okay. So this becomes very, very important exercise, because this is the start of your awareness journey when it comes to your emotions. Now, we will just see how emotions impact our body. Again, this science of emotions and their direct linkage to health. There's a lot of research happening all across the world. So whatever I'm showing you today is whatever is the latest one. If you look at some of the traditional, let's say Ayurvedic and yogic medical sciences, and some of the Far Eastern medical sciences, be it in the Chinese aspects or some of the Far Eastern medicine, you would see that the knowledge that those sciences have about emotions and their impact. Okay. The only sad thing is that it is not scientifically proven. So that's the reason why I usually tend not to show it, though I personally believe in that. So this is a study that is coming in from a National Center of Biosciences and Library of Medicine, basically. If you look at some of these emotions, like say, for example, the heart gets impacted whenever you're going through happiness or sadness, or whenever you're going through fear, right? Same way, when you go through fear, the fear is impacting a whole host of organs in your body, the kidneys, gallbladder, heart, liver, okay? But this doesn't mean that this is conclusive, okay? This is just a research finding. There are instances, like in our old movies also, we see that somebody gets angry and suddenly they hold their heart, they get a cardiac arrest and then they die, right? So while during the movie we tend to laugh at it and have fun, but that's not wrong. That is true. Very severe adverse impact of an emotion can have significant impact on your health. Okay. Once you start sorting these things out, you would be amazed at the fact that a lot of those aches, the pains that you have in your body, they tend to kind of get vanished like nobody's business, because the emotion is no longer impacting that part of the body, as a result of which the body is no longer going through those pains and aches. Okay, so keep an eye on the impact of an emotion and the impact, the damage that the emotion is causing to your body. Be very, very watchful of that. As you start improving this awareness, you would be easily able to understand what it does to other people also. But first, let's try to understand it. I mean, for those of you who have traveled in an airplane, the air hostess tends to give in the initial safety briefing, she would say that when the pressure falls down, the oxygen masks pop up, right? The first thing that they would say is, you put your mask on before you start helping others. That is because only if you are able to take care of yourself, will you be able to take care of others. That's the same premise on which this program is also happening, which is the more you start loving yourself, the more you will learn how to love others, right? So keep an eye on the impact of emotions on your body, because that will help you cure a lot of the physical ailments that you're going through.
But how do we find out that it's affecting liver or kidney or gallbladder?
Okay, so this is through a research that it has come through, but you don't have to really identify whether it is impacting your kidney or liver or gallbladder. What you would try to identify, this is just a table to show you, okay? But
we only know that it affects heart.
Sorry?
We only know that it affects heart, but the other part of the body we can't make out.
Correct. You won't be able to make out some of the inner parts of the body, but the outer parts of the body, like your hands, your throat, okay, your respiratory part of it. Like say, for example, if it is choking your heart, for example, let's say. Now, heart's function is to kind of purify the blood. So it is not just on the heart, but it is going to impact the other parts of it also. The point is, even though you may not be able to really pinpoint and precisely say that it is impacting here, the very fact that you are able to spot that emotion and try to reduce the impact will help you over a period of time. Okay, you don't have to really precisely pinpoint this. The fact that you're able to distance yourself from that emotion will help you overcome some of the challenges that the emotion throws at you. Does that help?
Excuse me here, Aditya. So what you're saying is that we should try and avoid happiness too.
No, I'm not telling you to avoid any emotion. You cannot avoid any emotion. Let me tell you. Okay. The intent is not to avoid any emotion. The intent is to reduce the impact that that emotion will cause on you. Okay. So you cannot really avoid any emotion. Let's be honest about it. You cannot avoid anger. You cannot avoid happiness, sadness, fear. Any emotion you cannot avoid. You have to go through it. But when you go through it with a lot of awareness, your ability to not get impacted by that emotions adversely increases significantly. So you will be in full awareness when you're taking decisions in that particular aspect. Does that answer your question?
But
I
I'm
suppose so.
only
I have a
talking
question.
about
Sorry.
new
One at a time, please. Yeah.
emotion, which is not there,
Sorry.
which is self-confidence. I have achieved
Confidence
a
is not
lot
an
in
emotion.
life, but I don't have confidence to talk about it.
Yeah.
to
So
others.
self-confidence is not an emotion. Okay. Self-confidence is an outcome of emotion.
What emotion its outcome for?
It's not a single emotion. It's a set of emotions, basically. It cannot be directly said that there is a direct proportion between this and that. Okay. It could be sometimes your ability to manage your anger. Okay. It's your ability to manage your emotions drives your confidence, basically. The more you start managing your emotions, the more confident you will start becoming of yourself. So it's an outcome of your ability to manage the emotions. So as your awareness in yourself starts increasing, you will start knowing yourself better. And as a result, your self-confidence starts getting increased.
But I have achieved a lot in my life. In spite of that, I don't have self-confidence to talk about it.
See, achieving a lot has got nothing to do with confidence. Okay. So achieving is something called actualization, which is your ability to translate your skills into outcome. Okay. Even though there are a lot of people who are not confident of talking about their successes, they're still successful. So it has got nothing to do with it. But then if your confidence increases, your ability, your achievements would have been much bigger, basically. So you
But
not
it's a
having
lot.
any confidence is a myth. You probably don't have adequate confidence. That's how you should be looking at it.
Sometimes we are not getting what we expected. So then we are getting hurted and also hurting our emotions. How will we control those emotions?
Yeah. So we will get into how we will manage those emotions slightly later on. Okay.
I have a question.
Sure.
How does childhood trauma or does childhood trauma impact your emotional behavior at some later point in your life? Are you a believer of the Freudian theory that emotions remain in your subconscious mind and they surface whenever there's a trigger at some point in time later on? So do you subscribe to this theory? Because there's a lot of talk about children being scarred as a result of external stimuli, as a result of certain pressures that they go through during their childhood. And we find that, as I'm talking as an educationist, that at some point in time later on, when you find some kind of deviant behavior in a child, you can trace it to some trauma that took place in the child's life at an earlier point. So what is your take on that?
Okay. So I do agree with that. If you're just looking for 2 or 3 worded answer, I do agree with that. I'll slightly step back and talk a little more in detail about it. So there are 2 aspects to this whole emotional intelligence. Okay. One is the external stimuli that throws different situations and events at me. Okay? So that is the external stimuli. It, like, say, for example, a partner bitching us, somebody's dead, somebody's success, and you're not able to cope because of jealousy or whatever. So different external events that occur trigger a whole lot of emotions in me. Now, the second aspect is my ability to manage that, how I react to those things. Okay. So how I react to those things has a lot of things to do with what my core values are. I'm going slightly out of topic and bringing in core values, because core values determine the way we think, behave, and act. And our reaction to the external which causes those emotions is because of the core values that we have. Okay, so these core values are what tend to get formed before we are 10 years old. And as we cross 10 years and as we get into our teens and all that stuff, they start firming up and become they become concrete, rock solid, basically, in our life. And that's what drives our behaviors. And those behaviors are the ones that determine how we react to those external stimuli and cause those emotions, basically. Like, say, for example, there are 2 people, person A and person B. Person A loses a very close friend, but person A is able to hold himself or herself up pretty well. Same way, person B also loses a very close friend, but then the person B breaks down completely. So for the similar situation, the reaction of these 2 individuals is quite different. And that's because of their core values. Okay. So the short answer to your question is yes, this childhood incidents play a very, very crucial role in our ability to manage our emotions and the way we react to situations. But while the damage has been caused, it is not something that cannot be undone. Okay. The emotional awareness that we are talking about helps us to undo a lot of damage that has happened in our childhood. And that's the reason why we are going through this. I hope that helps.
Thank you.
Okay. So I would request you to kind of hold your further questions for a bit, because we are running a little, I think we are close to 3:50. So I will talk about how you are able to manage, how you can manage the emotions quickly. And if we have some time, I'll also put you through a mindfulness exercise, which you can practice in your spare time on a regular basis, which will help you manage the emotions in a longer period of time. Okay. Now, when we get into management of the emotions, there are a few short-term tricks that I tell you, the quick fixes basically. When you're going through a negative emotion, how can you quickly translate it into a positive frame of mind? So the first way is to name it. What I mean by that is, if you're going through a sad situation, take a pen and a paper, write down saying that I am going through the emotion of sadness, or I am going through an emotion called anger. I am going through an emotion called happiness. Whatever it is, write it down on a piece of paper just once and see that you tend to get down to normalcy pretty faster than usual. Okay. Again, this is just a short-term trick. It's not that it is going to work in the long term, but just to help you get out of that frame of mind quickly, this is going to help you significantly. Okay. So naming the emotion significantly reduces the impact that the emotion has on you for the time being. Okay. The second one is something called power position. Okay. So if you see like a Superman, okay, the Superman's position is this way with his hands stretched out. Or when you see somebody standing confidently, they would have their hands on their waist and kind of spread their chest, open chested. So when you spread yourself larger than what your area is, body area is, that's called a power position. If you're sitting in a chair, put one leg on the other and like take your hands back and then lean back or whatever. So these are all power positions. Different power positions are there. If you're going through a negative emotion, just get into a power position and stay there for a minute. You will see that you will come out of the negative emotion very quickly. Okay. The third way is helping others. The reason why this becomes a very powerful tool in overcoming negative emotion is when you're going through a negative emotion, what is it doing to us? A negative emotion is making us feel helpless, okay, making us feel inferior, all right? So your brain tends to start slowly and slowly gets reduces the confidence that it has got, and it starts building the self-pity that you might have, which tends to become more dangerous. So what you would have to do is, in that moment, just get up, go somewhere, walk around, see if someone needs a small help or whatever, go and help that person. Okay. Now, when you help somebody, what is happening? Your subconscious mind is getting a signal that you are powerful. You are more powerful than the other person whom you're helping. So you are able to help the person. So that means you are in a position of power, and it immediately reduces the impact that the negative emotion has on you. Okay. A lot of times, one of these may not be possible. I mean, all these may not be possible. Just try one of them. It would work. The other ones that I'm going to talk about are slightly from a longer term standpoint. Yoga is proven to improve your emotional balance significantly. Try whatever simple yoga that you can do. Any physical exercise, for that matter of fact, helps, but yoga helps in building your emotional balance. Okay. So try to do any form of yoga. Over a period of time, you would tend to start increasing your emotional balance. And the last one is meditation. By meditation, I'm not talking about any religious practice. I'm talking about a mindfulness practice, a spiritual and a mindfulness practice. Okay, it's got nothing to do with any religion. The more you start meditating, what typically meditation does, okay, a brain has got multiple parts of the brain that are there. The prefrontal cortex that is there, which is known as the BFC, this is the logical part of the brain, which tries to analyze things and takes control of your actions and things like that. But at the same time, there is a very small portion of the brain, which is almost tinier than a kidney bean size. That's called the amygdala. Okay. So the amygdala, its main what do you call function is to protect you, basically. Say, for example, you are afraid of something, it suddenly pull back. It's not the prefrontal cortex that is working. It is the amygdala that's taking it. It's called the amygdala hijack, basically. So it takes over and tries to protect you. Now, in shorter spans of time, that is good because it's needed. But then if suddenly you get angry, you tend to start shouting without really realizing what you're saying. And then a lot of people realize it after the damage is done. That's because the amygdala has taken over. Now, what meditation does is that it strengthens the connection between the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex, as a result of which the prefrontal cortex tends to stay more in control. There's a science behind the meditation. But what meditation would do is it will try to calm down your thoughts, as a result of which, I mean, for those of you who don't know, there are anywhere between 60,000 to 100,000 thoughts that we go through in a day. That's a lot. Okay, so that's the reason why the brain is so cluttered. Meditation tends to slow down those thought processes, and it helps you think better and act better. So try any of these things. In the long run, it's going to help you achieve your emotional balance much more. We don't have time for the meditative practice, but I'm open for questions.
So if any of you would like to ask questions, you can unmute yourself and ask, or you can post your questions in the chat box.
We'll stop the share.
Yeah.
I noticed you never mentioned the mind when you gave us all these examples of the heart and what it affects you. But isn't the mind a major part of all these emotions? I mean, what do you think about the mind?
What do I think about the mind? It's too powerful for me to think anything about.
No, I mean, it does affect all these things, you know. And
so this is the mind is the driver of these emotions, basically. Okay. And see, if we were to look back, our mind is our biggest enemy. Okay. A lot of people may or may not agree with this, but our mind is our biggest enemy. It tries to do exactly those things that you don't want it to do. The more you don't want it to do, the more it starts doing. And that's the reason why you have to take control of that through alternative methods. Okay. Any emotion does not directly impact the brain. Okay. But it gets, so, okay. Let me talk to you in a different way. We all behave based on patterns. The patterns that we have created over a period of time in our life, that drives our behavior. Like, say, for example, in your childhood, you probably would have done something which has given you success. So you feel that, oh, this is a great thing to do because it has given me success. You repeat that. You see success in that once again. You repeat that. So after 2 or 3 times, you tend to believe that whenever I do this, I'm successful. But over a period of time, if you keep repeating it, you tend to start failing. So you get confused. So the same way, brain records all the past experiences, and based on the patterns, it starts exhibiting. The same way, it throws the emotions also. It hijacks your actual emotion and it says, you know what? At that point in time, that person did this and you went through an anger, so you should be angry now. And you go through the anger. Whether it is relevant or not, you tend to go through it. So more than brain being an impacted party, it's a causal factor, party, basically. Okay, so that's where we have to detach ourselves from the emotion. And if you tell your brain that I want to detach from the emotion, the more you tell it, the more it will go and attach you to it. So when you can't take out the ghee with a straight finger, you would make the finger a bit crooked to pull it out. So we are doing all these tricks to trick the brain, basically. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
What happens in childhood, it affects you so much when you grow up.
Yes.
Because I remember somebody came to, I took up music in intermediate. Those days there was intermediate and then degree. So I took up, and then my Tauji got some tuition for me so that I can understand and I can learn. But he said he can't teach me because I took it as because I was so bad. I never sang before in my life. So it affected me so much. I never sing. Now I'm learning to sing. So definitely it makes a difference. Though
It
she
does.
keeps telling me that I am good at it, but inside me, I don't have confidence.
Correct. And you're so right. All these, as I said, our core values start forming, and by the time we are about 5 or 6 years old, and by the time 8 or 9 years old, we are 8, 9 years old, our core values are already in place. And they just go on to, it's like this. Like, say, for example, you see something happening and a pattern forms in your mind, and that tends to become your core value. And it cements up because brain starts identifying those patterns as you grow up and say, see, I told you, that's what will happen. Again, you go and store it in this pattern. Again, you take a similar experience, store it in the pattern. That's how your core values start getting formed. Now, the awareness is a beautiful thing. The reason why awareness is so beautiful is because, as you have rightly pointed, you could identify your issue with the confidence with that incident that happened in your life. Now, the moment you're able to identify that, the impact that that particular incident has on you significantly reduces. It no longer is so impactful in your mind. As a result of which, your confidence starts bumping up. And this is what I do as a coach to a bunch of people. Help them identify what their cause was and try to talk about it. Once they talk about it, they're a completely changed person as you are. So thank you for sharing it.
Just a small question I want to ask. Do you think
Sure.
there's a genetic component to this reactions of ours? Because I've got like 2.5-year-old twins, grandsons, and I find that they are so different in reacting to the same circumstances, and they're twins. So one would expect their genetic component to be somewhat similar. And yet, they have different responses to the same circumstances, different emotions.
Yes. So,
isn't there a genetic component?
Okay. Again, the studies are inconclusive on this aspect. There are quite a lot of studies that are happening, but there is a little bit of genetic impact is what my strong belief is. Okay, I strongly believe that there is a genetic impact, but then often that gets overruled by what you see happen around you during your childhood, because those formative years are so powerful. Like we probably have seen in a lot of movies and all that stuff. And this is I'll give an example, which is a real life example. I cannot quote names and all that stuff. There was a family where there were 2 kids. Okay. The father was an alcoholic. His job was to go out, drink, come back home, beat up the wife, take money, eat, sleep. That's all. That's all was his job throughout the day. Okay. Now these two kids grew up watching their mother getting beaten black and blue every day. One kid tells himself that this is so pathetic, no matter what, I'm not going to touch alcohol in my life. The other kid says, wow, this is so cool. I feel so powerful doing this. You see the thought process? It's different. So just because I went through the same situation with another person doesn't mean that I would react to it the same way. Our life is 10% of what happens, 90% of how we react to it. And that is so true. And that's where I'm talking about the core values aspect of it. So if we take the example of these two kids, for kid number one, love, camaraderie, these are core values. Companionship, all these are core values. The kid number two, power, authority, they are core values. So that is making the kid behave that way, and this is making the kid behave this way.
Yes, thank you. Actually, it's very complicated.
It is complicated. It's not easy.
Environment versus everything, very difficult, very complicated.
Yeah. Unfortunately, most of these questions don't have a straightforward yes or no.
Yes, exactly.
There's a lot of gray area, basically.
I have a question for you, Aditya.
Sure.
We are all undergoing tough times now, tough situation. As a life coach, how are you handling the current situation? How are you handling your emotions? That would be helpful for us, because every day we are being bombarded with the negative thoughts, and whether we like it or not, our emotions are very high. Of course, the emotion happiness is not there. I think everybody would, of course, in the family, we have all those things. But in the large spectrum, if you see that all of us are bombarded with so much of negativity, and our emotions are, reacting differently. So as a coach, how are you personally handling emotions in this situation? That will be helpful for us.
Sure. So last year, March, there was this announcement that we are going into a lockdown, right? And the lockdown is going to last for longer and all that stuff. So the initial 1 or 2 weeks, it took a while for me to kind of settle down, basically, because a whole host of things that we planned have all gone for a toss. So as I was going through it and as I was settling, unfortunately, I have a great family support system that I have. My wife is a fairly positive individual. My son is a gem of a person. So there is that help that is coming through. But at the same time, I asked myself a question saying that there are so many things that I wanted to do. Now I can't do those things. Fair, I understand. Now I have so much of time for myself. What can I do? What is it that I wanted to do, but I could not do because of lack of time? And then came a thought that there was a book that I wanted to write. It was pending for quite some time because I was not getting the ability to articulate it in the way I wanted to. So I said, now I have this time, let me start working on that. And guess what? By the time the lockdown came out, I could finish the book. So whenever we are going through any difficult situation, ask yourself this question, saying that, how can this situation help me? The moment you say this situation is not helpful, you're telling your subconscious mind that you're going through a problem. So your mind has accepted the problem, and it starts creating more and more problems. Whereas when you ask yourself, how can I benefit from this? What can I do to benefit from this? Now your mind goes into a solution mode. And when your mind goes into a solution mode, you will start finding solutions all around you. When your mind is in a problem mode, you will start finding problems all around you. So the choice is yours. What mode you want your mind to operate? So whenever you're in a difficult situation, ask yourself this question, how can this benefit me? And see the way things turn around. It's a magic question.
Thank you so much for that. So I think we've exceeded by 10 minutes. And if there are no more questions, I would request Snehalata to give her concluding remarks and close.
Any more questions? Right. Aditya, thank you so much. I think to put it in a nutshell, today was about emotions, how you identify it, pin it, channelize it, and don't take decisions. We say rashly, but then I think when you meant don't take decisions when you are too angry or too happy or too sad. Don't take decisions then. Let it rest for some time. Come into the right mode of thinking, and then take the decision, because rash decisions never have brought in the expected outcomes or what you expect. Not the idea of the core values. I think that's what we got when we're young. That's what has cemented us. Yes, but we can get out of it. It's not that we work it around. I'm sure we can all work it around. You can't keep sitting and saying, I was sad when I was young, but now I'm going to be just. It doesn't work that way. We need to get over that. And the idea of
Just a second, Snehlata. Anamika, can you please mute yourself?
Yeah, thank you. The idea of pinning it, knowing yourself, knowing your own emotions. You have the power positions. That is, you get back to yourself. You have the hold. Don't let your emotions hold you. Tell me if I'm wrong, Aditya. You can't allow your emotions to hold you, but you rule your emotions. You take hold of it. And I love the way that you said meditation, yoga, to sort of channelize again, or to support in our way of thinking, and to make ourselves, bring ourselves peace. I would say it that way. Ultimately, we're all looking at peace. Happiness is peace. So, we're all looking at peace. And I think at this time, I think all of us want peace externally. And I think most important is to be peaceful inside. The peace inside is what makes you happy. Maybe I'm too philosophical, but that's not the way I meant it to be. But this is what I have understood from this particular session. Thank you so much. Very interesting. And Aditya, Rashmi has been telling me that you are mentoring already a lot of Vidya staff. Anyone who is interested and would like to be mentored by Aditya, please mail me. I will organize it for you. But please mail so that we can get in touch with Aditya and ask him his free timing when he can mentor you. So thank you so much, Aditya. To take forward this session, we have a beautiful. And I think it beautifully fits actually, because you talked about yoga, meditation. Next week, next Friday, we have Snikta, who is a senior teacher at Art of Living. Of course, everybody knows it is Gurudev Sri Ravi Shankar's. That is the Art of Living we are talking about today. They're going to talk about different ways of pranayam and yoga exercises, to beat all these negative emotions and, as you said, the external stimuli, Aditya, that's what you mentioned some time back. The external stimuli is our pandemic that we have today. So, this is what we're going to have next week. So, so we have a lot of sessions lined up. And next Saturday, the 15th, we have Mr. Lalit Kumar, who can reverse or, just bring about a complete change in any of your physical, if you have any problems. So we have 2 beautiful sessions coming up. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Namaste.
Thank you once again. Thank you.